Hi everyone. In today's video, we're diving into narcissistic versus emotionally neglectful or distant parents. Two distinct parenting styles that can leave a lasting impact on children. By identifying which category best fits your parents, you will gain greater clarity on their behaviors and how those dynamics have shaped you. I want to mention that my videos are not about blame, but they're about family awareness and self-awareness for recovery and healing. Before we dive in, I invite you to join my free training, Building the Self You Are Never Allowed to Have. This training will help you break free from family dysfunction and become who you truly are meant to be. My name is Jerry Wise, and for over 45 years, I've helped hundreds of thousands of people break free from the grip of dysfunctional family dynamics using the powerful method of self-differentiation with a family systems emphasis. My mission is to help you build a strong, confident sense of self, resilient, empowered, and free to live beyond the pulls of others' control, others' manipulation, and others' dysfunction. So with both the narcissistic and emotionally neglectful parenting styles, there's one shared root, and this root is the root of enmeshment. And it's interesting because many people will say, well, how can neglect be enmeshment? Well, that's no different than how can someone who is distant or withdrawing still struggle with enmeshment? Oftentimes, enmeshment is at the root of withdrawal, and enmeshment is at the root of neglect. People are so enmeshed or have enmeshment issues that they then use too much distance or neglect to deal with it. So what does this mean? Enmeshment happens when there's a lack of boundaries in relationships, where parents' needs, emotions, or expectations overwhelm or entangle their children. Whether through control or neglect, this programs us to disconnect from our true self. What are some of the key traits of narcissistic parents? So we can start with narcissistic parents, and again, these might feel painfully familiar. Narcissistic parents tend to crave admiration and control. They need constant validation from you to boost their fragile egos. They behave in a conditional love way and conditional support way. You only get their support, love, and approval when you meet their standards. When you made them happy, then you get the dog biscuit or the bone of love or support. But it isn't unconditional love or support. Self-centeredness is another characteristic or trait of narcissistic parent. Conversations always lead back to their own struggles and achievements. The focus is to be on them and not on their children, whether growing up or on their children as adults. Narcissistic parents use lots of manipulative tactics. They use guilt, blame shifting, or dramatics to keep you in line. They also promote a constant criticism and comparison with you. This keeps them feeling superior while leaving you feeling inadequate. So what are some of the key traits of an emotionally neglectful or distant parent? On the other hand, emotionally neglectful or distant parents have a different but equally damaging approach. Emotional disconnection. They struggle to form deep connections or show affection. And again, my understanding is if someone is emotionally disconnected, somewhere in their past or someone in their generational past, there's way too much enmeshment or overcloseness. And they're still managing that problem with emotional disconnection. Emotionally neglectful parents or distant parents avoid emotional topics. They avoid feelings, and they avoid them often at all costs. They also have a hyper focus on independence. While they encourage self-reliance in some ways by being passive, they fail to provide the emotional support so that you feel strong in being self-reliant and self-confident. So you have to depend on yourself, but you don't end up feeling very confident about depending upon yourself. And that's often a problem with neglectful parenting styles. There's a lack of affection or pride, and particularly as a child, and you may have felt unseen or unworthy because they rarely express love or pride in you. Neglectful parents tend to have surface level relationships with those people in their families. Their interactions often feel shallow, leaving you yearning for depth. So how do they differ? Here are the key distinctions. Narcissistic parents, overbearing, manipulative, dominating. They bring emotional chaos and drama into your life. Emotionally neglectful parents, distant, passive, disengaged. They leave you feeling unseen and emotionally starved. Certainly some of the traits of each of these can flow over into the others, but they are different types of parenting styles. So what's the impact on us as children? Well, both parenting styles can leave deep scars, but the wounds they create are kind of distinct. Children of narcissistic parents have constant guilt or pressure to please others, struggles with independence and setting boundaries, a self-worth tied to external validation. Children of emotionally neglectful parents often have feelings of invisibility, neglect, or emotional numbness, difficulty in forming relationships and being vulnerable, and trouble identifying or expressing emotions. So what can you do to learn to heal? Here are some self-differentiation tips. Whenever dealing with a dysfunctional family, observe, don't absorb. A phrase that Ross Rosenberg mentions in much of his work. Recognize their behaviors without letting them control you emotionally. Reduce your reactivity. Take a step back before responding. Calmness is your superpower. The reason why calmness is so powerful is it keeps us from engaging in the old programming and allows us more freedom to think and feel for ourselves when we stay calm. When we're reactive and when we're highly charged or have lots of anxiety, then we tend to just glob on to the family Wi-Fi and the family super self, and then we just act out of what we learned growing up. Remember, it's about you. Your healing isn't about changing them or even blaming them. It's about reclaiming yourself. Understand their impact on you. Acknowledge how their tendencies, whether overt or subtle, have shaped your reactions and patterns. Shift your focus to building the self you were never allowed to have. And lastly, give up the fantasies. Give up returning to the well that has no water. You will not get the attention and nurturing and being visible by going back to toxic parents. Step up to be your own new parent who gives you the things your parent could not. If you're really ready to finally break free from the grip of the dysfunctional family dynamic and you want to build a strong, confident sense of self, free from others' control, manipulation, or dysfunction, join the free training today. Start building the life you were always meant to live. Click the link below and get started. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be the first to see new videos I publish regularly. It's time to get your family out of you and finally be your true differentiated self. I want to thank you for joining me. Have a great day and be wise.